Good morning. Oh, that was loud. Good morning, everyone. I see a few participants logging in still. That's really, really good. So we'll be starting with the webinar shortly, just allowing a little bit of time for everybody to settle in comfortably. I hope you have grabbed your coffee, your tea, depending on where you're sitting, I assume. In the meantime, as you probably heard, we have been chatting already a little bit here, but I want to officially welcome our panel here today. We have Paul, who will be moderating today's session. And then we have Silvana, we have Alex and Sue. It's very, very nice. It's lovely to have you all here. And it's always a pleasure to actually gather and have some interesting discussions. And this time, I'm very happy we have quite a few participants joining in. And well, hopefully they're able to hear us and get a lot of insights from you guys. So, yes, I think it's 9:01. A few more numbers climbing. Well, Paul, I'm just going to start. I wanted, first of all, to welcome everybody on behalf of the AETC team, and a very warm welcome on this Market Insights webinar. So, first of all, again, to thank you for your participation. We know how busy your calendars are, so for you to take the time and being with us today, we really, really appreciate it. Just an introduction also, a proper one. Moderating today's session, we have Paul Wagner from Nordic Tourism Collective, and I'm pretty sure it's a very familiar face to many of you. Also together here in the panel, we have Silvana from Discover the World, we have Alex from Magnetic North, and also Sue from Best Served Scandinavia. Some more introductions are going to follow shortly. And I told you guys I speak very fast. Before I hand things over to Paul, just a few quick logistics. So as Paul mentioned, the session today is being recorded, just for your information, and then you will be able to share everything with your colleagues afterwards if you want to. And also a reminder that this is the first in a 3-part series. So I will pop in the chat very shortly also the dates for the next sessions and markets. And also, yes, at the end of today's session, we are going to allow some time for Q&A. So feel free to join in on that. And I think that's all. I think, Paul, I'm ready to hand it over to you, and very looking forward to this session. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alexia. And I'm delighted to be here with this wonderful panel with you this morning, and delighted to have such an audience of Arctic suppliers in a really incredible and unique area of Europe. And I think people underestimate quite how amazing your destinations are and your products are, and how unique it is in Europe. So we're really all very humbled to be here today. Thanks once again, as Alexia said, for your time, and thanks for inviting us. My name's Paul Wagner. I'm from the Nordic Tourism Collective. We are a not-for-profit tourism association for the Nordic region, from kind of Greenland in the west to Finland and the Baltics in the east, and we kind of provide events and activities with the objective of promoting sustainable tourism to the region. So that's what we do. But we also work with some Nordic destination on promotion in the UK. And today is all about the UK market. And we believe it's a very important market for your region. And that's what we've got this fantastic panel lined up for you today. I'm just going to ask our lovely panelists to give away. First, we've got Silvana, Nordic Product Manager, Discover the World. Hi. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
And
Thank you for having me today.
Fantastic. Then we've got Alex Minnis, who looks after product for Magnetic North Travel.
Hello, morning. Good to see you all.
And of course, we have Sue McAlinden, General Manager at Best of Scandinavia. Good morning, Sue.
Morning all, morning all.
Now, before we have the discussions, I'm going to do a short presentation for you on the UK market. And this is the fun part where we're sharing, and hope it works, because there we go. Is that all clear for everybody?
Yep.
Fantastic. Okay, yeah, just going to tell you a little bit about the UK market, its trends, and the potential, which we believe is very interesting for you. First one is, what are currently the main attractions of the Arctic region? At the moment, of course, it's very much for the UK market. It's Santa Claus. It's the build up to Christmas, which probably accounts for 60 to 70% of the production up in the north. It's the snow activities, the huskies, the snowmobiles, the family activities, those searching for those magical winter experiences. When you talk about the Arctic region, when you talk about Lapland, you talk about northern Norway, it's those magical experiences that come to the mind of the UK traveller. But it's also the Northern Lights. And in the UK, we've had quite a few sightings of the Northern Lights in around the UK, actually, in the last sort of 6 months to a year. And it's really kind of whet the appetite to see a little bit more interesting Northern Lights and dancing Northern Lights and real ones, as of course we have in your lovely region. So that's what the main attractions are at the moment. Now to have a little look at what type of operators are producing to the Arctic region. It's the FIT, the small customized group operators that are very prevalent and that we're fortunate enough to have here today. These tailor-made, customized, designed products are really what the Arctic and the experts in our tourism field are very strong at. So these experts we have with us today will tell you very much about the kind of mindset of the travelers that they're booking. There's the operators with guaranteed group departures up in the north. There's the large charter operators, and there's the kind of high-end bespoke operators. The high end is very robust segment in the UK and growing, looking for those Arctic experience. So these are kind of main segments of the operator setup. A little bit about the UK trends. The operators are, as I mentioned, are increasingly offering personalized travel experience. So every booking is quite a lot of work and tailor-making trips to the individual's interest. So this is very much a trend in the UK that we need these tour operator experts to find that perfect journey, that perfect experience for them. The health and wellness focused travel experience have gained popularity in the UK generally, very much since COVID, where we had a situation where people were stuck at home and couldn't have that special time and those special experiences and being stuck at home. This has really led to people looking for a kind of physical and mental well-being to promote that really feeling good. So they want to come back from their holidays rather than having drunk and sat on the beach for the last couple of weeks. They want to feel re-energized. So there's a lot of travelers who are looking for this kind of healthier kind of holiday. And the demand for adventure and experiential travel is continuing to rise as well. Travelers looking for those really cool activities, immersive experience. And this is often the higher end of the market. So a lot of our customers that we'll be talking about today are also from the slightly higher end segment. Very key question that Alexa was asking that we covered, and this will be covered a lot in our questions. Is there potential to extend the season? Because obviously the winter season is very important, and we believe there is, and we'll be discussing how a little bit later. As I mentioned about COVID, the feel and the appetite for nature has never been higher, and there's absolutely, I think it's around 10 million UK travelers who travel domestically in the UK for hiking, for the popular activities. But now they're looking for something new. They want to go somewhere more interesting. They want to experience other countries' nature. And of course, we believe that in the Nordics and in your region, there is some amazing destination and products to be had. And just to give you an idea, bird watching became huge during COVID as well. We have 1.5 to 2 million bird watchers in the UK. And that's another segment that's growing. So just to give you an idea of quite what this kind of interest in nature is. A little bit about the extending the seasons, about how people are now looking a little bit to the north, because I mentioned earlier about traditional UK travelers go to Spain and Italy and France and enjoy the beaches. Now many clients are looking north to get away from the crowds, to get away from the heat, this concept of cold tourism or coolcations, whatever you call it, is becoming very prevalent on the UK market. So people are looking for something different, something away from the heat. Last year, we actually didn't have a very warm summer, but the summer before, where temperatures hit 40 degrees plus, there was a real demand of thinking, do we really want to go to Southern Europe where the heat is very, very intense? They're still looking for locally sourced foods, which of course we have in abundance up in your region. Get away from the media, all the stories that we're reading every day in the UK. To be at one with nature, to have that healthier holiday, as we mentioned, but slower transportation and to drive hopefully with EVs, and also by train, just to get that sort of slower experience. And we'll be talking about multi-centre holidays during our discussion shortly. Brits love to stay and visit towns. These are a couple of your towns in your region, which are super interesting. And we'll be talking about the UK's interest in the culture and experience the towns everywhere in the Nordic region. We also want to just one slide on the kind of practical ways and the tour operators landscape, the operator landscape. So we have around 30, 40 tour operators who have Nordic products. We have them, we believe, the top ones here today. There are obviously workshops. The AETC workshop, which of course happens every year, is a key one for you. There are other ones in market as well, provided by some of the national tourist boards in different countries around Europe, in the UK as well. We also, just to put a little plug in, we have one of our Nordic workshops every year in Copenhagen in February. So there's these good workshops where you'll meet a fair amount of the UK buyers. There are also, besides the operators, there's also a huge amount of travel agencies in the UK, many of whom book through our operators here today, around 3,500. And these travel agencies are very influential. They've got very regular customers that come to them for all types of their holidays, and are very important in the landscape as well. And of course, there's the OTAs, which many of you work with, accommodation activity providers, where of course you have your direct deals with them. But this is kind of the landscape of the UK market, and the best way to approach them is through these workshop and fairs, through fam trips, and get to them as soon as you can. And finally, the final slide is kind of give you an idea of the kind of estimation of the UK market to the Arctic region. We believe there's around 470,000 overnights in the region, in the whole region in 2024. What is it looking like for the coming winter, of course, is what everybody's wondering. At the moment, people are fairly confident it could be similar, but of course, the news, every time we turn on the news, there's different things that could impact, especially economic factors, what's happening in the US, etc., could have an impact on what's happening for this year. This morning, we're hearing that there's going to be a new tariff deal between the UK and America, so maybe the UK will be in quite a strong position. We don't know, but we'll hear more about that later. But it's forever fluid situation and changing. At the moment, 90% of our travelers come to the region during December and January to March, of course, where the Northern Lights are the most visible. And this, of course, is something that we will be discussing, is how we can extend those periods. And we believe there's real potential to stretch the seasons in certain times of the year. But there is lots of competition. There's other countries that are competing for this business as well. There's European destinations, maybe with not such interesting nature, but maybe with more competitive prices and with different kind of products that we have to really be aware of when we talk about the potential. But we really believe there is a lot to be said and a lot of potential for getting the business outside of December to March. There we go. That's the little introduction, a little flavor of what we're going to be talking about. I've just stopped sharing, and now we're going to have the much more interesting time and listening to our experts. So what I was going to do first is maybe just ask our lovely panelists just to introduce themselves and their company quickly. I'm just looking left to right. Alex, do you want to kick off and say hello to our lovely audience?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Alex from Magnetic North Travel. I've been working in the Nordic travel industry for about 15 years now. I come from a sales background. I've kind of started off doing sales, and now I've moved into product, which is a really interesting perspective that I could kind of bring to things coming from that side.
Super. Thank you very much, Alex. Silvana.
Right, good morning, everyone. I'm Silvana and work at Discover the World as the Nordic Product Manager. Have been involved in the Nordics for 20 plus years now, and have done a range of kind of things inside the country. So I've seen the sales side, the operational side, and now moved into product. So yeah, quite a few years behind me with the same company. Thank you.
Fantastic, and this is great that you have both have the product knowledge and the sales knowledge, so you know what sells and what doesn't. So that's great. And finally, to Sue.
Hi, I'm Sue, and I'm the GM of Best of Scandinavia, which is the Nordic specialist brand. The Best of Scandinavia specialises in FIT tailor-made year-round product in the Nordics, but I also look after the product for our other brands, which are Wexus and the Luxury Holiday Company, which deal with products or destinations worldwide. So it gives us quite an interesting perspective as to how the Nordics are performing versus the rest of the world. Bit like Savannah, I've been in travel far longer than I dare to admit, I think. So hopefully got a good overview of how, and also of how the market has changed over the years. So, but yeah, love it.
Thanks, so yeah, great experience and great knowledge. So let's get cracking. It's just gone 1:15, so now we can start on the questions. We'll probably have about half an hour of these discussions amongst the panel, and then please do feel free to add any questions you want on the Q&A button that you have on your screen. Floki, let's kick off. What is it about the Arctic region which really attracts your clients at the moment, or what products are selling particularly well in the UK for you guys? Maybe I could start this one with Savannah.
It's everything that you mentioned kind of in your slide. The Arctic, as I said, is traditionally the winter destination. So that's where the main focus is and the main interest is from that part of the Nordics. And yes, absolutely, December is the peak time. And that's where kind of the difficulties kind of from our side of view is comes through, because there's a limited capacity for those December dates. And everybody wants to be there to meet Santa, want to see the Northern Lights. And wants to do the activities that they want to do. So yes, the demand is traditionally the winter destinations. We are seeing a little bit more now. We're trying to kind of push the summer or the wing side of the seasons, and we are finding that there is some interest, but it's still a hard sell in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely. And Sue, how are you feeling about the situation, or what are the really attractive products?
You can't escape the lure of the Northern Lights, and so that winter sort of, and combining that with soft winter at snow-based activities. So a lot of people are focused on that December to March time, and then also snow-based activities, whales, and wildlife. They love the reindeers and the huskies, and being introduced to those in their natural environments. And I think during that sort of winter, again, that sort of December to March time, it's an ability to just experience that wilderness. It is something that is just so alien to us, and it holds a fascination. There's been a lot of TV programs. There's been a lot of TV programs highlighting the Arctic, and that has inspired a lot of people to want to experience it themselves. Again, like Sylvana said, in December, the peak is December. And that is a lot to do with our strict school holiday situation as well here, whereby families can be fined for taking their children out of school. And if you look at two children, that could be as much as, well, about £400 per family. So we have this real sort of concentration of demand in December. And then you look in January to March, the majority of that is sort of couples, again, wanting to just experience that. We see lots of the couples wanting to experience the drama of a city with the wilderness. As you said, Paul, earlier, the lure of sauna and hot tubs. There's that romantic bit about the hot tub or jacuzzis underneath the Northern Lights. We are actually seeing an increase in the autumn time as well. But again, that's arranged or dominated by people wanting to see the Northern Lights. They love the thought then of going to the glass igloos. And it's a different type of client that goes then, that's not wanting that sort of soft, that adrenaline activity based. So they're looking at the hiking, walking, cycling, the autumnal colours, culture and cuisine. So that's the sort of the winter and the autumn time that we're looking at for that area.
You paint an interesting picture there, because it sounds like the profile of your traditional winter, maybe family activities coming in December, is quite different from the traveller that's going to be coming January to March, and possibly those that we could look to stretch the season more. So I think that's a really interesting point. Alex, how about you? What's the at the moment?
Yeah, I think Sylvana and Sue have covered it very, very nicely there. I mean, kind of building on that is, I think, very much from the UK market perspective, is they're looking for the easiest and quickest way of getting to these places, because time is important to them. The kind of indirect flights, they're not as because they're not as many kind of options to get to some places. They're all honing in on those places where those direct flights are going, your Tromsos, your Icelands, your Rovaniemis and things like that. So the demand is incredibly huge there. If you've already got the Santa, you've already got Northern Lights, you've got the snow, now you've got a direct flight, and that is kind of what the UK market's very much looking for with that. And I think also, I don't know, we're finding that people kind of looking year round as well. I mean, there's always the demand for Northern Lights. That's never going to really change, especially whilst we're in one of the kind of solar max periods. But I think people beyond that are looking at what else is there, and that's very much covered in the kind of presentation that you went through earlier, Paul. So you know, it's good to see that demand kind of open up to other times of the years, other of the year, like other seasons and things like that.
Absolutely. You touched on Alex, the air and how important the direct flights are. How would you assess the air access from the UK at the moment into the three countries obviously we're discussing today? Do you think it's sufficient for the demand or not? What's your current feeling based on the demand?
Is that for me?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the demand's great. The demand's great there, and we're seeing that. But it can work in two ways. In the fact that, you know, our place is getting overpopulated with the tourism there, you know, and does that put people off? But that can work in a kind of positive way, that people will start to look at other places that are quieter. So I think that's something that's been that we're beginning to see a lot of now. But it also, you know, hopefully will increase the interest of other options and routes to open up as direct locations to fly to.
Thank you. And Sue, I was just going to ask you, how important the direct flights for your customers? Is it pretty much across the board people are demanding that direct flight, or are there some that still will take indirect flight to go to the place they want to?
Direct flights. People are obsessed about a direct flight, and we find it for some reason quite difficult to persuade people to take an indirect flight. I think, alluding back to what Alex said, they want to get somewhere as quickly as possible, and as seamlessly as possible, if you like. However, we're working really hard to put the benefits of an indirect flight, as in going to somewhere that's maybe less in demand, better value for money in some instances, and maybe a less crowded experience. But when looking at putting on a direct flight to an area, you do have to think about what's on the ground. And I know that when there was the direct flight, I think Norwegian were going into Evenes and Harstead, and they introduced that, and I thought that's fantastic. But there was nothing on the ground to support that flight when it landed. So the natural thing was to land and maybe go to Narvik or on to Lofoten. There was no airport shuttle to do it, and we're looking at a winter time where our clients won't necessarily hire a car and drive to these places. So that was a stumbling block with us, first of all. So whenever you're looking at a direct flight, it's fantastic to have a direct flight, but you can't just put it on and so ta-da, there it is.
Very, very, very important point. And the holidays are very precious for the UK client. They want to make sure it's seamless, so getting there as quickly as possible. But they will be willing to travel, Savannah. They will be willing to travel to on the ground a couple of hours, I guess, to their perfect destination. I don't think there's an issue there, is there?
No, there isn't. And as Sue mentioned, the direct flight, it's crucial I think for all of us as operators, and that's where the demand is. Because indirect flights, as much as they can be seamless, can be a day's worth of travel and on a short break, which is what the majority of the winter breaks are at the moment to the regions. 3-4 night stays. People want to get there as quickly as possible. Yes, they will sacrifice time on the ground to go a couple of hours to a destination, but that destination still has to be there to be offered. And I think, as you mentioned, especially with the Narvik, even as we found that there really wasn't that destination to push that to take them where Lofoten Island, fantastic, but that's a self-drive in winter. UK market doesn't like to drive in winters, and we don't let them really out in winter on the roads anyways. So I think that's where the balance needs to be. One has to support the other. Without one, it just doesn't work, as we've seen.
What we've done as well a lot of is actually you try to utilize those direct flights. But when you look at Tromsø and Rovaniemi being so saturated, we utilise those and offer sort of an and beyond product. So they might have one night in Tromsø, and then we take them out and try and transfer them out into somewhere different. So also it gives people an opportunity to be introduced to the wilderness and then taken out to the real wilderness, and a sort of soft landing, if you like. For the product. So, the direct flights are important, not just for Tromsø and Rovaniemi, but for the products that are within a sort of 2.5 hour radius, as long as the transfers and the transfers are put on well, and coincide with what we, coincide with flights. Just give us transfers, don't just leave us in the middle of anything.
Sure, I'm hearing that obviously the Tromsø Rovaniemi flights are very good and are there. Are we lacking any destination in maybe Swedish Lapland or elsewhere in eastern Finland where direct flights could be of interest? Alex, do you want to go for that one?
Yeah, I mean, I would say Swedish Lapland, of course. I mean, it's a destination that I know they have tried in the past, flying into Luleå, and it's a shame that didn't kind of carry on. There's some incredible products out there, and trying to get people out there has been difficult. So we know the days when we had the direct flights to Discover the World, and you saw the success of that. It was huge. And I think, yeah, it is an area, but as Sue said, you've got to get the access, but you've got to think about what comes with that. You know, are there enough people, you know, who can you fill all the kind of hotel beds, or, you know, can you get everybody to all those locations? And it's very difficult. And I think with Swedish Lapland, you've got the ability to kind of start to split those and kind of get people to go into Stockholm and go up, and you know, that's another conversation about combining trips and doing twin centers and things like that. But yeah, I think that you know, Swedish Lapland's a great spot, and it would be lovely to see, but obviously there's all the kind of technical aspects of it we have to consider as well.
Sure. So I think we've firmly agreed that additional flights, the direct flight is key, but an infrastructure around that direct flight is absolutely needs to be there as well. And of course, Swedish Lapland, we will be talking about the products there and everywhere, and further questions now. So let me just move on maybe a little bit more to outside of the high season. And where do you think our lovely supplier audience, how do you think they can attract more clients to their region outside of that winter period? Sue, can I put that one over to you? Any sort of thoughts and ideas of what our audience could do to attract more clients outside of that?
It's already happening. We've actually seen a 70% increase in bookings for September to November departures since 2022. And when I look at the sort of product that's selling, it is obviously it's not snow based, so but it's yes, hiking, cycling, kayaking, fishing, but all guided, so almost like tasters for our clients anyway. So I'm not looking at going you know, sort of on a 3-day fishing on a fishing trawler scenario. But there is an element, you know, take them out fishing, catch the fish and cook it, for example. It's a bit like with the king crab and things that you do. Hiking, you can't just send people off into the forest and forage themselves. Show them how, you know, take them on a guided hike. And with a guide that's knowledgeable and can tell them about how they live. The UK market is absolutely fascinated by the Nordic and the Nordic way of life, you know, coupled with all this, the happiest countries in the world, the top 10s of that. They really are. And, you know, sort of going foraging going for a hike in the woods and having creating a fire and sitting around, and you've put your coffee on the fire and having a hot dog. I mean, that is really, really, really unusual to do in the UK. It's not what we do in the UK. So it's almost like teaching people what's in your DNA, and teaching them and showing them and giving them a window of that. But for our clients, not necessarily a 3-day cycling trip, you know, a guided electric bike scenario for a morning or 6 hours or something like that, with an activity with lunch or fika in the middle of it. Those are the sort of things that are going really well outside of the seasons.
Interesting, thanks, Sue. So that cultural part is very important. Sylvana, just coming to you. What sort of products are you similar feeling to Sue about the kind of guided taking care of the customer? What about learning about the Sami culture? Is that something that would also be an important part of it as well? Learning the cultural side of the region.
It is, and I think rather than I have to, you know, for our customers, it probably isn't the priority, but it's always a wonderful complement to a trip like that, to be able to understand and learn a little bit about the Sami culture and kind of the culture around the whole Arctic and how people lived. I have to say it doesn't generally come up as a main reason for the travel, but it always is part of, and it's part of the conversation as a complementary. But what I was and like Sue, we're seeing an uptake on kind of the September to November pickup for the Arctic region in the last probably year or so, with a little bit more. But what I was going to say is, maybe kind of in order to drive that interest. I mean, obviously we do a lot of work with marketing and, you know, trying to contact customers, and when they come to us, we talk to them about it. But what we've found to be is there's a lot of people coming into the Arctic in the winter months, and that is, you know, guides, people at the hotels. Those are the people that spend a lot of time with customers, and maybe turn it around and use that time that you have with them to promote the other side of the Arctic and the autumns there, and make that part of the experience. Have the guides tell them how wonderful it is to berry pick and do all of that when it's not all snowy. You know, show them the family photos of what they do there for their own kind of lifestyle, because that's, as I said, it's that lifestyle that, you know, the Brits are fascinated with. So, you know, if even suppliers can paint that picture of, you know, this is what we do. We have huskies in the winter, but let me tell you what we do, you know, in September with mum, dad, and the kids. And you have a captive audience there, in effect. You know, 470,000 bed nights, that's a lot of people that you have as a captive audience to self-promote. And that self-promotion will roll into interest that comes back to us. I think just to, flip it around.
No, exactly. And I think, you know, we're experiencing even in this region that sometimes with climate change, we're not even getting snow when it should be snowing early parts of the season in December, whatever, and that's quite stressy. So those other activities and stuff you can do when there is no snow is very important. So that's a very good point. Alex, what do you feel about the infrastructure? If you're going out of season, obviously we have the Arctic route, which is very important during the winter season. Would this be an important addition to have during the autumn and maybe later spring seasons?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of traveling outside of winter, I mean, it's some of the best time to go and see the Northern Lights. Let's be honest. We know September and is, you know, I'll argue that all day. I think it is an incredible time, because not only are you getting, if you're going out that time, not only you're getting the autumn colours, you've got the potential Northern Lights. There's all the other kind of wildlife aspects that you're going to get from it as well. There's also no pressure in terms of, if you're going out in winter, are people actually going to have snow or not, which is something which you just mentioned is increasing as a challenge for us. So I think it's an incredible time, and I know one day it's going to suddenly switch on and suddenly that will become a very popular time to go and travel there. I think, yeah, I mean, obviously accessibility. The thing is, one of the beauties of, I guess, when we're looking at it from an autumn perspective, is that people can drive. We're okay with them driving at that time of year. There's not the threat of snowstorms or anything like that. If you look on the other side of it, you know, if you're looking in kind of March and then further down into April and things like that, then are we more confident with people driving or taking advantage of things like the Arctic route and things like that? But I think the structure's there, you know, to encourage people to come out at that time. It's just trying to convince them, which seems to be the hardest thing. It's generally usually cheaper to go at that time. Sometimes, okay, maybe it's a case of the direct flights are not operating at that time. Is that an effect there? But yeah, I think I think the infrastructure's there to make it work, but it's convincing the client to go at that time. You know, when they've got their lure of snow and Santa and all of these aspects, it's a little harder to do. But
I think when we are looking at the suppliers that are working well for that season, that September, November time, they've thought about what they can provide for that client and the experience that they can do. So quite often they put together a 3 or 4 night package, which will include an activity a day or optional, you know, a menu of activities that we can put in. They've made it incredibly easy for us to sell on to the client. And we're not scrabbling around saying, well, what can, you know, great, we've got this accommodation for you. Now, what can we put together? If the supplier has, if the hotel or the accommodation almost has a menu of activities or a package that we can translate very easily to the client, those are the people that we've been working really, really well with. making it as easy as possible to book rather than us having to scrabble around and find individuals. So it's the suppliers and the hoteliers or the accommodation working together to bring people into the area. So if you're a hotel supplier, find out what activity providers you've got in the area and work with them. And equally, activity providers engage with the accommodation suppliers and come up with something that would work for the outside season and is easy for us to book through maybe one point of contact instead of having to contact 5 different people to do one booking.
Yeah.
I'm very conscious, thanks, Sue. I'm very conscious of the fact that we've got a few questions on the Q&A and there's some very practical things that we wanted to highlight. So I'm just going to move this on a little bit. And a question that I have for all of you, maybe we could start with you, Sue. How important is it for operators like yourselves to have quick responses to their requests?
It is vital. We regularly lose bookings because people, we haven't got responses back in time, bottom line. So if we can do same day, that's absolutely fantastic. We do battle with the Nordic working week, which is fantastic, which is great for the Nordics, and I really admire your work balance scenario.
Jealous.
However, a lot of our bookings come in, say, on a Friday, and we always joke, we haven't got a hope in hell of getting this confirmed until Monday because everybody's gone off to their cottages for the weekend by 2:00.
So, and I could see Sylvana and Alex nodding when you said that. Sylvana, anything to add? Or...
No, that's pretty much it. It is absolutely vital that we can we can get things confirmed very quickly. We can contact someone very quickly, and I understand. And the challenges are that once as Sue said, lovely to be able to kind of have that work-life balance, but winter is. The messages a lot of the time are, we're so busy we can't get to the reservations. So fair enough, but that's when people want to book, and then we come out of that and you start seeing bookings coming in for next year. But then we've had a busy season, and everyone's on the way to their cottages or whatever it happens. So again, that lag kind of follows that. So even that has to be managed somehow in order to kind of benefit both sides for that kind of sense. So yes, absolutely mirror what Sue said in regards to confirmations and just general day-to-day contact.
Sure. So that to get positive conversion, we really need those quick replies. So whenever possible, I think that's a very clear message. Thank you. Alex, just one quick question for yourself. The importance of the towns and the cities, because we obviously know that the region is full of nature and wilderness, but in the UK market, we have a particular affinity to the towns. And how important is it that we include in many of your products the towns and cities to get that cultural experience?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think the kind of city visits, definitely, I think everybody's seeing an increase in that, whether that's coming through seeing it in TV shows and film or just in adverts, it's social media, it's happening a lot. And I think that you're certainly seeing more of an increase of people actually wanting to combine these days. So they're taking advantage of the time that they're making to go out to these places. But they're spending 3 nights in Stockholm and going up to Swedish Lapland afterwards, and Oslo and Tromsø, etc. So there are some people who aren't just hopping on those direct flights and going straight to the north. They are actually taking the opportunity to explore these cities and see these cities, very much so across summer as well. And autumn. So this is where there's quite a lot of year-round opportunities there as well. And I think, I there's so much that you can go and see. And I think people have taken a lot more of an interest. I think maybe post-COVID that there's been more of an interest of that, from going out and actually seeing places and experiencing them. And there's so many different things that you can go out to experience. The options of having private guides to do food tours or craft beer tours. There's such a variety difference, and so much art and things, and so forth. So I think it's become quite an important kind of element, to some people's holidays, that it is almost a must that they go to these cities and combine those. And the fact that also it helps break up a journey and allows them to go and explore other places further afield, and that includes going up to the north. If we're going to do 3 nights and also go up to Alta or somewhere, and explore these other places, it gives them that option there. So yeah, I'm a firm believer in the city and combining that and creating those kind of twin centres there.
I think we're blessed with really great towns up in these destinations in all 3 Arctic regions. So I fully agree with you. So I think this is another thing, this dual centre or this multi destination visits that are becoming quite popular and have quite a lot of potential. One very practical point, which I'm going to look at Sue for actually. You want to mention a little bit about the importance of health and safety, Sue, for our audience?
I'll keep this very brief because I can get on my soapbox. But when you are, I appreciate that everybody has to have licenses, etc., that adhere to local laws and jurisdictions. However, when you're doing this, you do need to consider, if you're looking at marketing to the international market, you have to have international standards. We use, and Sylvania, you use the same company, we use a third party to do health and safety assessments on suppliers and on properties. And they things like they assess to an international standard. So I know the local laws state that you don't have to have carbon monoxide detectors in rooms where there might be fires or log fires or any sort of fire, basically. But that is an absolute red flag, and you will not be passed if you don't have carbon monoxide detectors in your rooms where there's fires. Just do it. And as Sylvania, I know that you've actually flown out suitcases of carbon monoxide detectors to properties
yes,
so that we can use them.
Correct.
That's a ridiculous situation to be in. And also when you're looking at for suppliers in terms of activity providers, as well as the public liability, etc., you do need to have an emergency plan. What happens if your guide isn't something happens to your guide and they break their leg? How do they contact what happened to the people that they're guiding? And also for us to have emergency contacts, because we have so many clients having delays with weather or flights, or flight delays and weather. So sort of 24-hour emergency contact that we can use, because we all provide a 24-hour emergency contact service. And we expect to be able to contact our suppliers if there's anything on that. But when you're looking at, so your licensing, yes, there's the local standards, but you have to consider the international side of things as well. And also engage with this, the third party. Some suppliers get offended by the fact that we are asking these questions or expecting them to maybe have some more safety measures in place. This is for our, we can go to jail if something goes wrong, and we can be held liable for it. So it's really, really important to engage with us with this and engage with us on the health and safety aspect.
Thanks, Sue. And just to mention, it is very important for the UK market. So if you're working with or planning to work with the UK market, if you need any more information, maybe contact Alexia and we'll put you in touch with our experts here who can send you some information about what you maybe need to prepare. So thanks very much for bringing that up, Sue. I'm going to move very quickly to the questions because we've got quite a few of them mounting up. First one is a question which is about the British tourists. Apparently there's some locations in the region where we're having trouble with British tourists, the young ones. And even here locally, people are not excited to hear about the British tourists arriving. Is this something that's a discussion within the UK at the moment? I don't know if any of our experts here have had some negative reaction to this. So Alex, I can see you.
I'm just wondering how they can afford to go out there, but
Exactly.
I've not encountered that personally, and I've not witnessed it myself, so I can't really answer that, but I'm surprised by it. there. I know that we might have seen that in places like Greece and such, where it has become an issue, but it's the first I've heard of that happening in Scandinavia, admittedly.
I would imagine it's during the peak season when we have the charters coming in, when there's stress of 1 day turnaround and people going to see Santa and doing all their stuff in a day. Maybe there's some British ones that get a bit stressed and a bit I don't know, difficult to deal with. And I guess you get that in most markets. But I think because we have that intense production at a certain time, it could lead to that. But we'll keep an ear out to that. I don't know, Sylvana, so you have any experience of it yourselves? Any negativity?
Not from our side. I think we're getting a different type of client coming that is maybe not so aware of what they're getting themselves into. i.e. they're not going to Disneyland. There is weather. It can be -30. And again, from a supply point of view, you have to be aware that you're taking people out of their comfort zone. We can't drive in a hard frost. We barely have -5 degrees. You're taking people outside their comfort zone, and that can bring on stress and maybe some extreme reactions sometimes.
Absolutely. Okay, brilliant. Thank you for that. Next question, which I think is just one I really wanted to hear actually. Do you think the midnight sun resonates in the UK market? What would it take to make it successful to build programs around the midnight sun? Sylvana, any thoughts on that one? Do you have already interest from some clients?
It is, again, it probably wouldn't be, unlike the Northern Lights, which are a bucket list kind of event. The midnight sun is probably doesn't have that same pull as an event. But it is a great selling point because of the kind of the daylight hours and the opportunities to see more. Whether it can be an event that you can kind of sell around, possibly look at, if you want to take opportunity of the midnight sun, excursions, I don't know, maybe start them at 10 o'clock at night and use that opportunity for something different to do, actually get out of the clouds and do something different, try that way. But I'm not quite sure whether it can be an event that can be sold, other than, it's an opportunity, but not the event of the holiday, if that makes sense.
I think it's definitely a good bonus, and
yeah.
Of course, we get the midnight sun in other parts of the Nordic region as well. So it would probably be sufficient to say we could get it in southern Sweden or in Finland. But when you're there, as you said, you could build products around it, and it's definitely a positive. But a really good question from Nadia. Thank you. Marielle asked the question, for couples traveling fall or winter, what's the duration of their stay? Just weekend, or longer tours? Alex, any thoughts on that for outside of winter?
I think generally, I mean, there'd be kind of weekend tours, but you say that, but kind of like long weekend tours, because if you are kind of at that time of the year, if you haven't got the direct flights, you've got to remember they're going in direct. So therefore they need to have a little bit more of a longer stay, because one of those days is going to be them flying for the best part of that there and back. So so I think it's built around the weekends and things like that, but long weekends.
Cool, thank you very much. A question from Ken. He was mentioning about, we talked about the 1 night in Tromsø and then out to the wilderness. I think Sue might have mentioned it. It was then mentioned that it needs to be a destination itself as well. So what is that incorporate? Accommodation and activities? Is there anything else that would be required in that sort of 1 night? Sue, any thoughts on that one?
In the twin centre
Exactly.
scenario,
if you're just 1 nighting in Tromsø and then moving on to the wilderness, what would you need in Tromsø?
What do we need in Tromsø? Well, that's a sort of an introduction to people, really, and that you, as I said, you're transporting these people into the wilderness. So normally on Tromsø, we will try and immerse them in the city, so they will have a dinner or go to the restaurants. It's really nice that they can incorporate an excursion in the town, or immediately from the town. So we're not just putting them there and then taking them straight out. We are still trying to immerse them in the culture of Tromsø. We have the opportunity at Tromsø, for example, we always include a ticket up to Fjellheisen. And sort of so they experience some culture in Tromsø before taking them out. So yes, all the sorts of things, museum visits and all the rest of it as well.
Super. Thank you, Sue. I think we've got 3 more. One from Teresa in Heart of Lapland. As a destination in eastern part of Swedish Lapland, the Heart of Lapland utilised the Finnish side and their direct flights a lot. Is that something the UK travellers may find interesting, combining Swedish Lapland and Finnish Lapland? I'm going to look at Alex for this one because
I'm nodding my head. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. We've had to become creative in using these direct flights. There will be those who want to go to those key locations like Troms and that, but there'll be others who'll be open to exploring those other areas and where they can get to through using that direct flight. And by doing that, that's where you get those combining the countries. And I think that's a huge thing that is beginning to happen. And for the client, they're getting to experience 2 different countries. They're getting to experience all these different kind of areas and such by doing it that way. So yeah, I think it's certainly something that even combining 3 countries, which you can very much do up in the north up there, it's all very possible. So yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. I think combination of destinations is very much what we want for the future in your region, and I guess that's the very DNA of AETC to kind of combine as much of the destinations as possible, not only winter but obviously throughout the year. So absolutely, that's very much the future of your region. 2 more questions. How do the British so-called green? What are the British so-called green values? Is promoting recycling, waste reduction, sustainable use of natural resource material important when choosing a destination? We have talked about that. So Sue, and I think you might be a little bit surprised on this answer. Sue, over to you.
I don't think we've ever had anybody wanting a sustainable holiday or asking for a sustainable holiday. However, they do expect us to use providers that demonstrate sustainability. And we are, we often, well, we not often, but we get feedback from the clients. They're very quick to come back to us and highlight where they think there might be non-sustainable practices or anything like that. But we don't get anybody asking us for a sustainable holiday, but they expect us to have done our research.
I think it's one of the kind of disappointing things about the UK, as much as we're learning very much about the importance of sustainability and climate change and everything, it hasn't yet been reflected in holiday choice. So we're maybe a little bit behind other countries, especially the Nordic countries themselves, when you're choosing. But I personally believe that in the next couple of years, this will change, especially when European regulations kick in about what we need to do and what companies need to do in their holiday journey to incorporate regulations. But at the moment, our panelists are saying that it's not an impact yet, but guarantee whoever sent that it will be in the future. But I'm afraid not yet. Last question from Kaisa. What's your opinion on tour operator online bookings if it's made easy for you? Instead of reaching the team by email, phone, you could book online for your customers 24/7. Sylvana, go for it.
100%.
Yes.
Absolutely. Hands up, anything. If and where we do have access to online bookings, it shows in the numbers. Sales teams, they know about the region, they're all very versed on the regions, but they will go to where it's easiest to sell. And access to online booking systems is that easy sell for them, which means they know that they've got the customer on the phone, they'll have the conversation, they'll pop the details in the booking form, booking done, customer happy, money taken, end of call, next one on. So 100% access to online bookings is a game changer for bookings and increasing sales.
Super.
And if I can just add there, sorry, Paul, we're open 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So again, going back to that bookings over the weekends, you know, not to be able to contact somebody from midday on Friday to possibly not getting a reply until the end of Monday, you know, we've lost 4 days of trading where we could have converted something.
Brilliant. This is going to be just a couple of one-word answer from Alex on this, because it's been a
one word from me. Yeah, go on.
One word.
Last minute, I'm afraid, but Finnair are starting a new flight which includes Helsinki and going up to the north to Alta and to northern Norway as well. Would a combination of Finnish Lapland and coastal Norway be interesting for UK market? So it's combining that. Alex, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I think, yeah.
Great. I thought you'd agree on that. So absolutely, these combinations and using these new flights would be really interesting. And just Jan Roger, UK market is including Scotland and Northern Ireland. Ireland we haven't included yet, even though I know we do get some bookings from Ireland as well, but it includes the whole of the UK part at least. I think, Alexia, that is 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock now in Finnish time. I think to thank the audience and thank you for listening to our amazing panelists. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Paul. And yes, unfortunately, it's already 10. I think time flew by, at least for me. I had noted at least 3 or 4 questions for myself, but I think I will reach out directly and maybe share them then with the rest of the participants. It was really, really good to have you all. Sue, Silvana, and Alex, thank you so much. We can see how much knowledge you have, how well you know your travelers, your guests, your clients. So thank you very much for all the insight you shared with us. And Paul, thank you for a very beautifully led panel discussions, very good questions. And we can see also from the audience interacting and asking the questions that this has been very, very useful and interesting. And apologies for my voice breaking up a little bit. So having said that, I don't want to steal any more time from any of you, even though we could stay here and talk about this at least another hour. I wish everybody a lovely day ahead, and then hopefully I see you all next Thursday. Well, not all, maybe not the UK market experts, or you are welcome to tag along, but at least the rest of our participants and Paul. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.